I'm Eleanor. I'm 79 years old. I live in a small apartment now. It has a nice view of the park. It's quiet, it's clean, and it is completely empty of anyone who truly knows me. I'm telling you this because I see something happening in the world today. I see it on the television. I hear it when I overhear young women talking in the coffee shop. I hear this obsession with the spark. I hear people talking about passion and butterflies and fire. And I want to tell you that fire burns everything down. I made a mistake 50 years ago, a mistake that seemed so brave at the time. I thought I was the heroine of my own movie. I thought I was refusing to settle, but I wasn't refusing to settle. I was refusing to be happy. I left a good man because I was bored, and now, at 79, I would give every single remaining day of my life for just 1 hour of that boredom. Let me tell you about Henry. I met Henry when I was 20. It was 1969. He wasn't the kind of man who turned heads when he walked into a room. He was a civil engineer. He was quiet. He had steady hands and a slow, deep laugh. He wasn't poetic. He didn't write me sonnets. He didn't whisk me away on midnight drives to the coast. Instead, he changed the oil in my car before I even asked. He made sure the front door was locked every single night. He listened to me when I talked about my day, really listened, without interrupting. We got married 2 years later, and it was good. It was solid. Henry went to work at 8,000 am. He came home at 5:30 p.m. We ate dinner. We watched the news. On Saturdays, he mowed the lawn. On Sundays, we visited his mother. It was a life of rhythm, a life of predictability. And after about 5 years, I started to feel like I was suffocating. I looked at Henry, sitting in his armchair, reading his Architectural Digest, and I felt this crawling anxiety in my chest. I thought, is this it? Is this the rest of my life? Just safety? I wanted drama. I wanted to feel my heart race. I wanted to be consumed. I had friends who were dating artists and musicians. They had these tumultuous, loud relationships. They would break up and get back together. They would have screaming matches in the rain and passionate reunions. To me, their lives looked like Technicolor. Mine looked like black and white. I started to resent Henry. I resented his calmness. I resented that he never got jealous. I resented that he was so content with a simple dinner and a quiet evening. I told myself that I was settling. I told myself that I was withering away. I remember the night I left him. It was a Tuesday. It was raining. It's funny how you remember the weather. I sat him down at the kitchen table. He was eating a bowl of chili. I can still smell the chili powder. I said, "Henry, I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving." He put his spoon down. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just looked at me with those steady brown eyes. He looked devastated but quiet. He asked, "Is there someone else?" I said, "No, there's just more. I need more, Henry. I need to feel alive. I don't feel alive here." He didn't beg. He respected me too much to beg. He just nodded slowly, like he was processing a structural failure in a bridge. He said, "I just want you to be happy, Elle. If I can't make you happy, then you should go." Even in the breaking, he was good. I packed my bags. I felt this rush of adrenaline. I felt like I was finally starting my real life. I moved into the city. I got a small studio apartment. I felt liberated. And then I found the passion I was looking for. His name was Julian. He was everything Henry wasn't. He was a photographer. He was moody. He was intense. When he looked at me, I felt like I was the only person in the world. The first 6 months were exactly what I thought I wanted. We stayed up all night talking about art and philosophy. We drank too much wine. We made love at odd hours. We fought. God, we fought. And then we made up. I told myself, this is it. This is what love is supposed to feel like. It's supposed to hurt a little, but passion is exhausting. You can't build a house on fire. Julian was exciting, yes, but he was also unreliable. He would disappear for days. He would forget to pay the rent. He would criticize me, pick apart my insecurities, just to see me react. The spark that I loved so much. It was actually anxiety. I was constantly anxious. I never knew where I stood. I never knew if he was going to be in a good mood or a bad mood. I missed the oil changes. I missed the locked door. I missed knowing with 100% certainty that someone had my back. I stayed with Julian for 3 years. 3 years of highs and lows. And then, inevitably, he left me for someone younger, someone new, because people who chase the spark are always looking for the next fire. I was 32, I was alone, and I was tired. I thought about calling Henry. I picked up the phone a dozen times, but I was proud, and I was ashamed. How could I go back to the man I called boring and tell him that boring was actually wonderful? So I didn't call. I dated other men. I had other relationships. Some were okay, some were bad, but none of them were Henry. None of them looked at me with that absolute, unshakable devotion. None of them made me feel safe. Time has a way of moving faster than you expect. 30 turned into 40. 40 turned into 50. I focused on my career. I traveled a bit. I convinced myself I was the modern independent woman. I didn't need a man to complete me. But at night, in the quiet of my apartment, I would remember the sound of Henry turning the pages of his book, a sound that used to annoy me. It was a sound I craved. I kept tabs on him, of course, in a small way. I heard through a mutual friend that he had remarried about 4 years after I left. A school teacher. I remember seeing them once. It was 1980. I was at the grocery store. I saw Henry in the produce aisle. He looked older. He had a little gray in his temples. He was inspecting a cantaloupe. The woman, his wife, was standing next to him. She said something, and he laughed. That slow, deep laugh. He put his hand on the small of her back. Just a gentle, unconscious touch. A touch that said, "I am here. I've got you." I stood behind a display of apples, and I felt my knees go weak. That touch belonged to me. I had earned that touch, and I had thrown it away because I wanted fireworks. I watched them walk away. They looked content. They looked peaceful. And I went home to my exciting, independent life, and I cried until I couldn't breathe. That was the slow cost. That was the slow cost. It was 1,000 small moments of realizing that I had traded a diamond for a handful of glitter. I realized that passion is cheap. Anyone can set a fire, but building a hearth, keeping a fire tending through the cold nights, through the storms, through the boring Tuesdays, that is the real work. That is the real love. Henry died 5 years ago. He was 74. Heart attack. I went to the funeral. I stayed in the back. I didn't want to cause a scene. I listened to his children speak. 2 sons and a daughter. They talked about their dad. They talked about how he was always there, how he never missed a game, how he fixed their toys, how he loved their mother. His wife, his widow, stood up. She looked frail, but she stood tall. She said, "Henry was the anchor of my life. In 50 years, he never let me down. Not once. 50 years. She got the 50 years that I threw away. I drove home that day, and the silence in my car was deafening. I'm 79 now, and I finally understand what I didn't understand at 24. I thought love was a feeling. I thought it was a rush. I thought it was about how the other person made me feel about myself. But love isn't a feeling. Love is a behavior. Henry loved me. He loved me in his actions, in his reliability, in his presence. And I left him because I didn't know how to value peace. I see young women today swiping on these apps. They swipe left on the nice guys. They say, "He's too nice," or "There's no chemistry," or "He's kind of boring." And they chase the ones who ignore them. They chase the ones who are mysterious. I want to grab them by the shoulders. I want to say, boring is good. Boring means no drama. Boring means you know where he is at night. Boring means he pays the mortgage. Boring means he will hold your hand when you are sick. The spark fades. It always fades. Biology guarantees it. And when the spark is gone, what are you left with? If you chose the man for the excitement, you are left with ashes. If you chose the man for his goodness, you are left with a warm coal that will heat your house for the rest of your life. I am alone, and I am lonely. I have friends, sure. We play bridge. We go to lunch. But I don't have a witness. That's what a long marriage is. It's a witness to your life. Someone who knows that you wore your hair long in the 70s and short in the 90s. Someone who remembers the dog you had 20 years ago. Someone who knows the stories without you having to tell them. I have no witness. When I die, the memories of my youth die with me. Henry was the keeper of those memories, and I fired him. I look around this apartment. It's filled with nice things. I bought them all myself. I am proud of that in a way. But I would trade every stick of furniture, every stamp in my passport, every moment of freedom I had to be sitting in that armchair next to Henry, watching him read the paper. I didn't leave a boring man. I left a good man, and good men are the rarest things in this world. If you have a good man, if you have a steady hand, a kind heart, a reliable soul, do not take him for granted. Do not look at the horizon and think there is something better out there. Do not mistake peace for boredom, because one day you will be 79 and you will realize that peace was the only thing you ever really wanted. And by then, it will be too late to go back and lock the door. You can love your children without becoming a martyr for them. You can love your husband without living in his shadow. It is okay to want something for yourself. It is okay to work. It is okay to have a passion that has nothing to do with diapers or dinner. In fact, it is necessary. Because if you give up everything, if you hollow yourself out until there is nothing left but the role of mother and wife, eventually, the people you played those roles for will move on, and you will be stuck in an empty theater, waiting for applause that never comes. I am proud of my children. I am, but I am not proud of myself. I look back at my life, and I see a long, smooth, flat line of duty. I don't see the peaks and valleys of a life lived fully. I see safety. I see obedience. And looking back from the end of the line, safety looks a lot like fear. I wish I had been brave. I wish I had fought for my place in that newsroom. I wish I had figured out the daycare. I wish I had let the house be messy. I wish I had let James cook his own damn dinner sometimes. I wish I had known that my happiness was just as important as everyone else's. It's too late for me. The ink is dry, but it's not too late for you. Don't make yourself small. Don't disappear. Hold on to your red pen. Hold on to your byline. Hold on to whatever it is that makes your heart beat fast. Because 50 years from now, you don't want to be sitting in a chair like this one, wondering who you could have been. You want to know, even if it was hard, even if it was messy, even if it was exhausting, at least it would have been yours.